What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jordan Wheeler with RTR Vehicles, and in today's episode we are installing the RTR Tactical Performance Coilovers on your 15 to 22 Ford Mustang. Inside your box you'll find new front struts, front springs, front sway bar end link, rear shocks with nuts, rear springs, adjustable perch, adjuster cap, spanner wrenches, as well as your installation instructions. Now, since we will be modifying the suspension on this vehicle, make sure to take it to a professional to have it properly aligned. RTR has also gone ahead and put some alignment specifications in the back of this packet for you to help you with that job. Inside the instructions, you're also going to find things like ride height adjustment, dampening forces, and we went ahead and threw in some specifications that we like to use for road course use. But that's enough of the boring stuff. What do you say we hop into this job?
For this installation, we're going to need a 6mm hex socket, 10mm socket, 13mm socket, 15mm socket, 18mm socket, 21mm socket, socket wrench, extension, impact, 17mm wrench, 18mm wrench, body clip remover, hammer, torque wrench, a hydraulic jack for installations on the ground, and I use this spring compressor, but you can easily rent a spring compressor from your local AutoZone. Here at the RTR Lab, I have complete access to our full line of gear wrench tools as well as our 2-post Coates lifts. However, I have done this installation in my driveway, and so can you with a little mechanical know-how. Starting with the vehicle elevated, remove the car's wheels. Next, using your body clip removal tool, remove the 2 speed sensor anchors mounted to the car's front struts. Using both your 17mm and 18mm wrenches, remove the top and bottom nuts, securing the sway bar link to the vehicle. Then, using your 15mm socket, remove the 2 bolts holding the brake caliper in place. Remove the brake caliper and set it aside. Now you can remove the brake rotor for easy access to the 2 18mm spindle nuts. Thread the nuts flange side out to create a striking surface for either a standard hammer or an air hammer. This is necessary as these are spline bolts and cannot just twist out. Pull the spindle away from the bottom of the OEM strut and then head up top. Using your 15mm socket, remove the 3 nuts holding the strut to the strut tower and remove the strut. Next, you'll want to compress the factory spring and use a 21mm socket to remove the top hat. With the RTR Tactical Performance Coilovers, we will want to check our presets. I'm measuring ours to be 3.25 inches from the lower lock ring to the bottom of the upper lock ring. Then place the provided spacer on top of the coilover, and your OEM bearing and top hat on the new spring. Slide the coilover into the top hat and torque to 26 pound-feet using the provided nut. Now lift the coilover back into the strut tower and hand tighten the 3 nuts. Reinstall the OEM spindle bolts to the RTR Tactical Performance Coilovers and torque to 184 pound-feet. Then go back and torque the upper strut bolts to 46 pound-feet. With your coilovers in place, you can now install the new sway bar end link and torque the nuts to 85 pound-feet. Reinstall your rotor, brake caliper, and re-anchor the 2 speed sensor tree furs. Then head to the back. Using your 18mm wrench and a 6mm hex socket, remove the brake line bracket and sway bar end link from the sway bar. Next, using your 18mm socket, remove the 2 bolts securing the top of the shock to the chassis. Then, using your 15mm socket, remove the 2 bolts holding the bottom of the shock in place. Now remove your OEM shock from the vehicle. Remove the wheel speed sensor from the inner fender using your body clip remover. And you use the 10mm socket to remove the hard brake line bracket from the body. Using a hydraulic floor jack, support the diff. Next, use a 13mm socket to remove the 2 front bolts securing the rear subframe, followed by the 3rd bolt using your 21mm socket. On the back side of the rear subframe, just in front of the exhaust, use your extension and a 21mm socket to remove this bolt. Now lower the jack to release tension and lower the subframe. Now press down on the control arm and pull the spring and upper isolator free. For the rear spring perch, reposition the lock rings on the spring perch body to 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of the upper base. Install the new rear spring, making sure to align the spring's edge into the lower isolator. And place the adjustable perch on top of the spring. Press down on the control arm assembly and position the spring and perch in place. Using a 15mm socket, you'll transfer the stock shock mount over to the new RTR Tactical Performance shock and torque to 22 pound-feet. For this install, I also transferred over the factory dust cover to the new setup. On your OEM setup, the bolts were threaded up from the bottom. With the new RTR rear shock, you will now be dropping the factory bolt in from the top and securing using the provided nuts. With the new shock and OEM bolts in place, secure them using two 15mm sockets. Then reinstall the OEM 18mm bolts to the top of the shock and torque to 66 pound-feet. Reinstall the speed sensor anchors, hard brake line bracket, sway bar end link, and the brake line bracket. Drop the vehicle and you're ready to rock.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you found it informative and useful in the installation of your parts. Make sure to head over to rtrvehicles.com for our full lineup of Mustang, Ranger, F-150, Bronco, and Bronco Sport parts, as well as a sweet line of merch that makes you look killer on track day. I'm Jordan Wheeler with RTR Vehicles, and I'll catch you on the other side of fun. Whoa!